His name was Sam. My wife and I had been living in our ancient Victorian house for nearly 5 years before we found it. Something sank in the subfloor in the upstairs den, and I spent one quiet Saturday in September prying up the plywood in hopes of discovering a dead rodent. The room was on our renovation list. The maple flooring was beyond restoration, having taken some water damage when the house was abandoned in the 80s. The floorboards were stained black like long rotten teeth, and the wood was spongy like the further I sank the pry bar in. I recoiled. As the smell worsened, Caroline, I hollered out to the door. "Can you grab me an N95, please?" I picked up the D-well and definitely unscrewed the first section of subfloor. The subfloor had been replaced not too long ago. I noticed the house was built in the late 1800s, but the plywood boards still had a fresh blonde color to them. I heard Caroline clapping up the stairs as I wrestled the wood from the floor. The patchwork of the plywood was all I could see while I held the giant sheet in front of me. I set it down gently just as Caroline came in the doorway. She extended a hand with a masked pinch in her fingers. "Thanks, love." I took it from her, but noticed she was frowning past me at the floor. I turned around. There was a loud knock from under another part of the subfloor. For all I knew, it was the wood settling after I had it with the pry bar. Besides, I was extremely distracted. I followed Caroline's gaze, and there it was, set in the subfloor under the plywood I had moved was an old black safe with silver stenciling. "Oh shit!" I shuffled on my knees over to it. Oh god. I've always wanted this to happen. But I swiped the dust from it. Caroline crouched next to me and smiled. "Really? You've always wanted to roll down a heavy safe down our steep staircase? You're so sweet." I rolled my eyes. "Come on, look how old this thing is. I'm not saying it's filled with gold, but it could hold history." "It's empty," she said plainly. "How do you know?" "Because they always are. People don't forget about safes when they move. They just don't want to move them." "Don't listen to her." I spoke to the safe. "You're filled with treasures." Mundane documents, if anything. $20. There's something interesting inside. $20. There's nothing at all. Caroline extended her hand and we shook on it. "Easiest $20 I ever made," I said and patted the safe on the side. One thing wasn't much bigger than a microwave. It weighed at least 100 unwitely pounds. Caroline's first instinct of considering the difficulty of moving this thing was spot on. Getting it downstairs alone would be downright dangerous. I thought I tried to crack it open where it sat. That way, if there was something of value inside, I could secure its contents before pushing the safe itself out the window into the weed bed below. I really didn't want to carry the thing downstairs. Finding the safe was reason enough to stop my weekend labor. I decided to call it a day. Unfortunately, my safe cracking plan fell apart after an hour YouTube. The best course of action for an amateur like me was to cut the black out with a saw. But the empty den was a tinder box. One hot bit of metal sinking into the floorboard could burn the whole house down. When Caroline was busy watching TV that night, I opened the den, hoping there was no priceless china inside, and heavy the thing out. It dumped to the dirt. I leaned out the window to look after it. A part of me was hoping it'd be hanging open and the fall would break the whole thing, but it sat still like a meteorite in the earth. I walked downstairs. Caroline looked over her shoulder from the couch. Want a hand with the thing? No need, I really brought it down. She paused her show. Really? Yeah, didn't you hear me huffing and puffing 20 minutes ago? I rubbed my hands together. You threw it out the window, didn't you? I shrugged with a smile. It didn't hit the house on the way down. Of course not. I plotted its possible trajectory. She stood up and followed me out to the back door. We stood over the safe like proud parents. Perhaps the pride was mine more than hers. When are you going to try to open it? Caroline asked. I'll pick up a metal blade for the circular saw tomorrow. We're having my parents over for dinner tomorrow. It's not going to take all day. A few hours tops. Tops, she repeated. Skeptically smiled at me, knowing how I got obsessed with projects. You can run the saw. I know I can run the saw. It's my saw. Right. She smiled and started heading back inside. She paused in the doorway and leaned out while I stared at the safe. Beers and sex, she said. I squinted at her silhouette in the dark doorframe. The way a lover squints at the other, wondering how they ever got so lucky. I'm still a little fool. Sex them years, I said, wiggling my finger annoyingly. My man's a genius. I stepped inside and she took my hand and I locked the door behind us. Later that night, I removed myself limb by limb from post-sex spooning and snatched a sweaty beer off the nightstand. I walked into the warm hall and looked over my shoulder. Caroline hadn't so much as steered. She was sprawled on top of the sheets where it was still hopelessly too hot to sleep. What do you call a warm fall? I wondered. Indiana summer, I whispered to myself and brought the beer to my lips. Every fall is hot now. It needs a new name. Normal. I walked into the little upstairs den. 5 years and the electrical in there still didn't work. It was embarrassing, sure, but fuck, it's mad how fast 5 years can pass. I squinted, trying to remember what the original quote had been to fix the lights, but a scratching sound took my attention away. I never did find a rodent, but wasn't it supposed to be dead, with the subfloor and the windows open? The smell had seemed to go away. Or perhaps I just got used to it. The scratching continued, harder and heavier. The subfloor was strangely walled off in sections, so I couldn't poke a flashlight into it where I'd found the safe and seen every direction. I wasn't about to get drilling with Caroline trying to sleep, so I stood my crossed arms. Something caught my eye on the floor from where the safe had been sitting. I went back to the bedroom and came back with my phone's flashlight shining. There were tiny words carved in the dusty floor, short sentences, neatly tied above one another. Some of the letters overlapped like it had been written in the dark. 6'1", burns on right arm, brown eyes, no hair, my age. He said his name was Sam. Sarah Child, 1989. I sat down with the floor opened, my feet further below near the carving. Sarah Child. I said the name aloud. Of all the strange joke you could play on the homeowners and remodelers of the future, this was up there. I swallowed my spit nervously as I opened my phone and typed the name into Google. 30 years later, the disappearance case of Sarah Child is just as cold as it was the day she went missing. I read on. Sarah Child went missing in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania at 16 years old. She simply never showed up after walking back from a recital rehearsal late one winter night. That was it. No leads, no sightings, no nothing. Just in town gone mad with imagination. We were in Hilltown, just south of Bethlehem. I don't remember ever hearing of the case, but then again, I was born in '86, and there were plenty of disappearances in the populated Lehigh Valley. I clicked off my phone and shook my head. This was either a poor taste prank by some kids enthralled with the disappearance at the time, or I shivered at some point a young girl was entombed in our subfloor. And why, I wondered. Why did that name sound so familiar? I sat in silence for a long time. I heard the air conditioner start to whirl from my bedroom window. Over the next several minutes, I'd flinch when the house creaked as it cooled. I thought logically soon and felt relief. Whoever set that safe down had no doubt the message had been seen. The police had possibly already been informed, and it was probably a prank. Definitely a prank. At least that's what I told myself to sleep that night. The next morning, when I got back from the hardware store, Caroline was still asleep. I was aware then of the thought that whoever placed the safe there had also taken Sarah's child. Perhaps opening it was tampering with evidence, but I felt like I looked like a fool calling the police on what I had convinced myself into thinking that this was some kind of game. If there was something fishing in the safe, then I called them. I decided. Otherwise, there was no need to waste anybody's time. I rolled the safe to the middle of the backyard, fitted the new blade in a circular saw, and got to work. Not long after I started, Caroline came running outside. "What are you doing?" I still confused and took out my earplugs. I just looked like an idiot at the safe, opening it. "Michael, it's 7 in the morning. We have neighbors." I looked around as if they might be watching me angrily. Waiting another hour or more to get work would drive me nuts. But I relented, and I went inside to eat. "I knew you'd be obsessed, but what's up? You're no early riser." I debated not telling her about the writings. I don't know why. Perhaps it came realer if I told her. Perhaps I was afraid she wanted to call the police before I got to open the safe myself. "In the subfloor," I said, slowly. "There's some kind of prank written there." "What?" "It's where the safe was. Just go look." I pointed towards the stairs, and she frowned at me as she turned and went up them. I was tapping my coffee mug anxiously when my heart stopped. "Oh my God." I heard Caroline say in horror. "Oh my God." "What?" I started towards the stairs. "What is it?" I said as I ran up them. She was bent over, the writing with her hand over her mouth. "What?" "Sarah." She started shaking her head. She was crying. "This can't be Sarah, child. Do you know who that is?" I googled it. "My mom's cousin." She cried. "That's the one that went missing when I was just a girl." "It's just some prank, though, don't you think?" She said nothing for a moment. "This description. What about it?" "In high school," she trailed off, but it's all I needed to know. While my memory of her mentoring Sarah Child was hazy, I knew what she was thinking. When Caroline was younger, she had a stalker. He has gone as far as pretending to be her father and tried to pull her out of elementary school. His behavior wasn't consistent. She said he had vanished for a year at a time before appearing outside her bedroom window. Sometime around their sophomore year of high school, he vanished altogether. Does it sound like him? My heart pounded. What did he say his name was? He never did. Caroline looked around the room and shook her head. Maybe I'm just remembering wrong. Do we call someone? I mean, what if the people that used to live here have something to do with Sarah going missing? This place was abandoned until the 1990s. This subfloor was probably exposed then, and it's not all that crazy that some drunk teens in the creepy house wrote a message knowing it'd be found one day. I want to call someone. Like the police? I don't know, I just hate to think that she suddenly stopped and backed towards me. That poor girl was trapped in here. Okay, first thing Monday we'll call someone. She nodded and suddenly frowned. The safe. Yeah, I said anxiously. What if something's in there? Well, I smiled, trying to cheer her up. Then you owe me $20. We took turns sawing. Caroline was much more enthusiastic now than me. I stopped the saw as flakes of molten metal stung my arms and face, but she saw on, unfazed. After a while, we got the metal packed, peeled away, but there was still a layer of concrete we had to break through. I had a small handheld sledge on standby. Caroline took it from me without a word and started swinging. It crumbled away and she tossed the chunks of cement into the yard. Anything? I said as she peered inside. She stuck her hand and pulled out a fist full of what looked like paper. What is it? I walked over cautiously. Pictures, she said. Then I saw her eyes widen in fear. Michael? She fanned some of the photos towards me and I looked. Michael. There. Pictures of me. I got some from her as she took more from the safe. There were photographs of Caroline as a baby, a toddler. We sorted them all. The newest photos seemed to be from around the time where she turned 10. There were none where she was older. There were family photos taken by her parents, it seemed. Okay, I said, and you never saw the safe before? Caroline ignored me as she dug her phone out of her pocket. Caroline? She held up a finger to quiet me as she put her phone to her ear. Hey, Mom. She started to pace around anxiously around the yard. Actually, I'm not sure we should still do dinner. James has a cold. Yeah, I'll make sure he gets tested. No, I feel fine, Mom. She was quiet for a moment while her mom spoke. I'm actually calling because I've been looking for some photographs. Physical photographs of me when I was younger. Speaker. I hissed and Caroline put the call on speaker. Oh, Caroline's mom sighed. How come? Michael was showing me some pictures of him when he was a kid, and it just got me thinking. This is a bit embarrassing, Carrie, but your father and we misplaced your picture books. We thought they were in the garage, but when we went to find them and had them digitalized, well, they weren't there. Caroline and I stared at each other. I clicked my thumb nervously in my teeth. When was this? Several years ago now. Mom, when? I can't say exactly. You try living this long. I'm sorry we lost them. Okay, Caroline sighed. It's okay. Tell her we found them. I mouthed, but Caroline glared and disabled the speaker as she put the phone back to her ear. It's really okay, she said. I'd only look at them once in a decade. Anyway. Yeah, I love you too. Sure, we'll try for next Saturday. Love you. Bye. Caroline brought the phone down. Why didn't you tell her we found them? Why didn't you ask about the safe? Because she'd freak the fuck out. And she doesn't know of the safe because it's been sitting in the floorboards for years. She snatched up all the photos and started walking inside. Caroline. I called after her. She went upstairs and came back down in a minute later, dressed in jeans and a thick hoodie, despite the fact it was nearly 80 degrees. I'm going for a drive. That was all she said, and I felt like I couldn't ask where. She went out the door and started her car. But by the time she got home, it was dusk. I spent the day sitting at the kitchen table, drinking beers to calm myself. When Caroline came in, she looked at me and my emptiness and snatched a bottle of the bourbon from the butcher block. I don't know how you haven't moved to something harder. Are you okay? I stood and we hugged. Her clothes were torn, her cheeks had thin scratches. What aren't you telling me? She started filling a coffee mug of whiskey. When it was half full, she took a sip and pulled out a photo of the kangaroo pocket of her hoodie. I took it from her. She grimaced, brought the mug to her lips again. What's this? I said quietly, but I knew what it was. It was a picture of Caroline, taken maybe a year or two ago, based on her hair shorter. She was laughing in the orange glow of a window, the kitchen window. The picture was taken at night from the backyard. On the back of the photo, there was a simple smiley face, with a long white mouth and sideways rectangles for eyes. That was the signature. What? The man who used to follow me when I was a girl, the smiley face. He sighed his last note to me like that. Was this in the safe? She nodded. I looked at the kitchen window, the same one Caroline had been photographed from, and raced over to draw the blinds. That's not going to do much good. What? I paused. What do you mean? This has to be him, right? He's back? Yeah. I found that she flicked the wheel of a lighter and lit the end of a cigarette. Caroline, there's a problem with that. What? That man that followed me when I was still just a girl. There was a thumb upstairs, and we both paused and looked towards the stairs. I killed him 13 years ago. I could hear the tobacco burn as she drew on her cigarette. And I just checked where I buried him. And would you know it? Her eyes searched the ceiling. He's not there anymore.
Hello guys, I do want to thank you guys for watching this video, and I hope you guys don't enjoy this. This is the longest video I've back in. Oh my god, my head. Hope you guys do enjoy, and I'll see you guys tomorrow again after the upload. I've pre-recorded some videos, so I'm edit tomorrow or edit today whenever I'm free, and I'll see you guys later on. Bye. But I also have a Discord server if you guys do want to, you guys are interested in joining. You guys can join. You guys can. But bye.